Hello, how you doing? This is Over and Over and Over Again. We are live, and this is part two, actually, of the FA Cup final memory show. I've got some different guests joining me tonight to share the memories. It's going to be a really good show again. So, without further ado, let's hit the intro. Hello, good evening. My name is Richard. This is Over and Over and Over Again, and we are live across YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. This is part two of the FA Cup final memory show. I don't know whether you saw the show last night. Really good show it was. Some great guests on. We had Melvin and Gary and Martin with some great memories from a lot of the cup finals. In fact, we basically went through every cup final since 1952 last night, briefly talking about a few of them, which was really good. And tonight I've got some different guests with me, obviously with the same cup finals, but different memories because everybody's got different takes on it all, which is always great to hear, and it's going to be good. There are going to be some more guests joining me. We've only got one here at the moment. The others are running a little bit late, but we'll drop them in when they come. So the first guest that we've got tonight, actually, he's new to the channel. It's his debut. Real pleasure to have him on. It's Adam. How you doing, Adam? You all right?
Yeah, pretty good, Rich. Thanks for having me. Much appreciated. Looking forward to this one.
No worries at all. Thanks for coming on. It's going to be good. I say we have got a couple of other guests. I mean, if you saw the intro, they're in the intro. So we've got Ryan and Den coming on as well. I say they're running a little bit late. I thought we'd get started anyway, just because Facebook don't let you start more than 6 minutes later than you schedule it for anyway. So I thought we'd get going and make a start. So I mean, obviously, we've been fortunate as Arsenal fans actually over the years. You know, obviously we've won the FA Cup more times than anybody else in history. So there's a lot of cup finals that we've been in that, you know, that we can remember, and some great moments that we've experienced as well. We've been really fortunate, to be honest, in this particular competition. I think every club tends to have one competition where they maybe do well. In Liverpool, it was always the first division, wasn't it? And I suppose it's been the Champions League for them more recently. Yeah. And Man United have always had the Premier League. They've won that the most times. And for us, it's the FA Cup. That's our competition. We've won it the most times in history. And you know, obviously this time of the year, it was FA Cup final weekend. I just thought this was a really good opportunity to look back on some great finals and maybe some not so great finals as well. I mean, Adam, obviously, as you're in now, what we'll do is I just really wanted to ask you, really, what was the first final that you, the first Arsenal final that you watched? I mean, first of all, maybe on the television, maybe when you were younger, and then actually in the stadium.
So, just specifically Arsenal, it was the same as each other, to be honest with you. So I was born in '79, which is obviously a cup-winning year for us. So I think that was always an omen. Being born in a cup final winning year was always going to be that. But yeah, the first one that I watched was one that I went to, which was the Sheffield Wednesday final in '93. So that was obviously really, because obviously we were in there in '79 and '80, but I was like, you know, a baby. So like, I don't really remember those. Obviously I caught up later on, but yeah, the first ones I went to was Sheffield Wednesday. Obviously when we played them 3 times at Wembley, didn't we, in a very short space of time. And I still remember it like really, really vaguely. Like first final was 1-1 before the replay, and it was, I've looked back on it since, and it was an awful game of football. But I remember the day, and I remember, you know, being with my dad, walking, you know, down the old Wembley way to the Arches, being stuck in this sea and crowd of people for what seemed like as a 13-year-old an hours, which in theoretically might have only been about 20 minutes. But it just seemed like it was the slowest moving crowd ever. But I loved it. I remember loving every single minute of it. And I'd been to Wembley before to see the semi-finals, you know, one we lost, one we won, but then also England schoolboys like previous to that. But it just was completely different cup final day. The atmosphere was just incredible. And yeah, and I went back then 3 or 4 days later for the replay as well. So which we won, which was great. So yeah, that was my first cup final experience, both visiting and watching. So yeah, and I think that I fell in love with the FA Cup at a very early age. Personally, I remember the first real game I remember watching was the '87 final when Coventry beat Spurs, and I loved Coventry for that, and I've still got a soft spot from even now because they beat Spurs, and that was the first real final that I remember actually sitting down Saturday and watching with my dad, with my uncle, because we were at my nan and granddad's house, and I think ever since then I wanted to go to Wembley. I wanted to watch an FA Cup final, and it weren't that long till I was able to. But yeah, I love it.
No, I mean the FA Cup was, I watched it as a kid as well. I think everybody starts off. I mean, when I was young, obviously I'm a bit older than you, so the first cup final I remember watching on the telly was actually 1975, West Ham against Fulham, and we used to watch it every year as a family. And so the first Arsenal one I watched on the telly was 78 against Ipswich when we lost. And it was after that final really that I really started to start supporting Arsenal, I suppose. And I'd always assumed that. I mean, I started going to Highbury in 1981, and of course, we'd reached 3 finals in a row just before that. So I just assumed, well, we'll be in the FA Cup final again soon. It'll be fine, not a problem. And of course, like yourself, my first one actually going to was that 93 one against Sheffield Wednesday. And it was, we'd played Sheffield Wednesday, like you said, in the League Cup final as well, didn't we? Just a few weeks before, which was great. I'd seen us win the League Cup in '87 as well against Liverpool. But the FA Cup, I agree with you. It's something completely special, isn't it? It's the biggest showpiece day of the football season, I think. I know nowadays everybody looks at the Champions League and stuff like that, but I still think the FA Cup is the best day of the football calendar every single season. For me, it is. And, even before Arsenal was doing that well in it, as we have done, I always used to watch the FA Cup final and, look forward to it every year.
I agree.
And that's not really changed. I suppose actually I've probably grown even more attached to it in recent years because we've won it so many times, and it almost feels like, it should be our trophy every year. But yeah, I mean, that Sheffield Wednesday game, you're right, that the first game, it wasn't a great game, was it? It was quite, we scored early on. Ian Wright scored a header, didn't he?
It wasn't.
And the rest of the game never really got going.
It was a scrappy game, that really scrappy.
Yeah, it was. And I remember extra time seemed to go on forever. There was no opportunities to score. Nobody looked like winning. And I can remember personally coming out of the final, walking back down Wembley Way towards the station, feeling quite deflated. I'd waited all them years to see Arsenal play an FA Cup final, and the game was quite dull. It hadn't been decided, so you knew you'd have to come back again in a few days' time. You had to scramble around to get tickets for the replay, and I was feeling, I felt quite deflated actually coming out that day, and it was raining. I think to remember as well at some point during the day.
I remember,
the sunny hot day, and then
I seem to remember it being. I seem to remember it being sunny beforehand and then raining after extra time. It was like literally with your moods. Beforehand, it was all sunny and bright, and everyone was optimistic. And then after a boring draw, that was it. The rain come. I remember that one.
No, it was. And I mean, the replay, which was on a Thursday night, wasn't it? The Thursday after.
Yeah.
And I know there was a bit of an aggravation trying to get tickets for it, but I managed to get tickets, thankfully. And of course, again, that wasn't a fantastic game of football, but ultimately, very dramatic ending. And I'll never forget the Andy Linnigan goal, of course, and to see Tony Adams go up the steps and actually lift the FA Cup. First time I'd actually seen that live. Was that's the sort of moments that you'd never forget, aren't they?
It is. That's that first kind of like goosebump moments, like hair standing on your edge when you actually see, obviously when you're in the stadium, they do look really, really small, but you still see the cup glinting, when it's held up. And it's no feeling like it. I mean, I've been fortunate enough to have been to a few finals since then, but I'll never forget that first one. And I think that the Andy Linnigan one really sticks with me for a few reasons. Yes, it was a last minute goal, but he had that broken nose, didn't he, from Mark Bright? Mark Bright done the elbow, I think, in the first half, and he played the whole game with a broken nose. And I think that, like, when like you're writing a story, you think that guy breaks his nose, carries on playing through the pain, scores the winner in the last minute, like that was written in the stars. And I think one of the things that I'd also forgotten was in the first game, like Andy Linnigan was the one who laid on the header free and right, like he was involved in that first. I'm sure it was Andy Linnigan. Yeah, I'm sure it was him.
So like he was proper involved.
it wasn't. You wouldn't have thought he'd be a huge player for us, but when it comes to that cup final, he was in both games.
Yeah, no, he was, and he was probably deserving. He actually played quite well in the second half of that season, actually, because I think he had to replay. I think Steve Bold was injured, and he came in and played a lot of games.
That's right.
Really well. We've got Den's joined us. Actually, absolute pleasure to have Den on the channel for the first time from
Hello, mate.
Podcast. How you doing, mate? You all right?
Yeah, good. How you doing, UK?
Yeah, we're really good.
Sorry for the late jump on.
No problem. We've only just sort of really got started anyway. Just talking to Adam about, just his first FA Cup final. I was just going to sort of maybe come to yourself then. With Adam, it was the same one. The first one he'd been around for was actually the first one he went to, which was '93 against Sheffield Wednesday. What was your first FA Cup final experience?
I was born then. Bloody hell! I was literally born then. It's obviously going to be different. I mean, we're sort of in a different generation, so it's going to be different kettle. But it's got to be the Arsenal 2-0, the first London derby win against Chelsea in that 2000. I think it was 2002 or something. Ljungberg and Parlour, unreal. And I mean, the fact that we've continuously beat them in a London derby and FA Cups, you love it, don't you? You love to see it. You like to see Chelsea in the mud. As much as I don't like to be biased, I mean, I've got a different sort of channel to this. Obviously, I'm a bit, but I like coming on these because I can sort of have it with them. And to be honest, it's always nice to see Chelsea and like us keep beating them. Like, when we went 1-0 down last year, I thought, oh God, don't tell me they're going to finally actually beat us at Wembley. But the fact we've continuously got there each time against our rivals, and the fact that it was Ljungberg and Parlour as well, it's got to be that for me. I was only a tiny little kid, to be honest. I can't remember much of it, but that was when I really just thought, you know what, this is when rivalry comes alive. This is when it all starts happening. You get what I mean? It was different gravy that you can't beat playing. I mean, we'll go into this, I'm sure, but you can't beat when you get I know everyone spoke about in like sort of Europa and stuff when we were going to get we could get Tottenham when they were in it, and it's just like you can't beat a rivalry final. I know people say it's horrible because you have to go through it, but I'll take it every week. I would. Beating Chelsea in a FA Cup final, I'd take it every single week.
It's good when you win, I suppose. Obviously, we've been fortunate.
Yeah, if we start losing, I'll say nah.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've beaten Chelsea 3 times in the final in the last less than 20 years. So that long may that run continue, I suppose. But I suppose if we started losing to them or any of our other London rivals in a final, it wouldn't be much fun. I wouldn't have thought. So we luckily haven't experienced that yet. But I mean, that was a great final, the 2002 one against Chelsea. Actually, there was 2 fantastic goals, wasn't there? As you said, Parlour and Ljungberg. They were both probably two of the greatest goals ever in a cup final, both in the same final. That was unbelievable, really, wasn't it?
You don't get that anymore either. Like, I mean, look at the final we just saw on Saturday. It weren't spectacular. Let's be honest. It wasn't. You don't get exciting finals anymore, I don't think. And I think even with derbies, even just derbies alone, I don't think you get them sort of exciting derbies anymore. You look at London derbies and Man U derbies, they're not, you haven't got your Vieira Keanes anymore. You haven't got your Sol Campbells in there. There's not enough grit. I really don't think there is. And I think that's the problem these days. I think back then it was just enjoyable because every player had that fire. Whereas at the moment, I couldn't name you a player that I expect to sort of get up and start, doing what they used to do back then.
You're right, and that was a great team, actually, wasn't it? That Arsenal team from sort of 2001 all the way through to 2000.
That was peak Arsenal. Peak Arsenal.
It was, and they were for me that was the greatest period of watching Arsenal in terms of the football that we played. I personally maybe enjoyed the 90s more from a personal perspective, although we did win a few trophies as well. But I think from a football perspective, I think those sort of 5 or 6 years under Arsene Wenger were probably the greatest football that the club's ever played. And the fact that we won a few FA Cups in that period, obviously a couple of league titles, a double a couple of times, and that kind of thing, great times. And we've been fortunate, haven't we? I mean, I've said it enough times. We've been fortunate to witness so many great moments as Arsenal fans, actually, and we need to be perhaps grateful for that. I know sometimes it's hard to accept that when we're not playing so well, but I think we have been fortunate. We've got a couple of people in the chat. Melvin, how you doing, Melvin? Melvin was on last night, of course. He's usually on the show, giving his cup final memories. That was a good show last night. And Shane as well, he says, was that Chelsea final at Millennium Park? It was Millennium Stadium, wasn't it? Yeah, that first one was. That was the second final played there, actually, because the one the year before, which we'll probably come on to a bit later, the Liverpool one, which wasn't quite so much fun. But anyway, we'll talk about that a bit later on. I mean, Adam, then going back to you then. Obviously, you've been fortunate like me to see quite a few cup finals. What sort of goals that stand out for you as sort of maybe the best goals that you've seen in a cup final?
So I was thinking about this earlier, and I think like you always enjoy all the goals, but I think that the ones that stood out for me was the replay against Sheffield Wednesday. Like, I think that Ian Wright goal was quite underrated because if you remember, the ball come through and Smith done a lovely little layoff, like through to Ian Wright. And if someone done that layoff nowadays, they'd be crowing about that for weeks, all different angles showing it on. And Wright, he just done what he done. He run through it and done like a little chip. He didn't panic. He done like a little chip and a little bit deflection and went in the bottom corner. I love that goal. I think it was like a zippy surface. It was raining, and for Smudger to get that little touch and knock it through perfectly. For Wright, because I think in the first game Campbell started, didn't he? Kevin Campbell started with Wright, and it didn't quite work. Whereas Smudger come back in for the second. I might be wrong for the replay. So that goal always sticks with me.
I think Smudger replaced Ray Parlour in the replay, actually.
Oh, was it? And they played together, did they? Okay. I knew that Smudger weren't in the first game, but then when he come in the second game, he had that more physical presence up top against, like, I think it was, probably, I can't remember, it was Des Walker back then, maybe for Sheffield Wednesday, or was that before his time? I can't remember who it was. But yeah, that goal always sticks out for me. And then the other one, I think for me, was like the Sanchez goal against Villa. Like a ball from nowhere.
It's got to be.
Like, again, like
Shay Given put on his arse.
He was just he was smiling though, weren't he? I mean, I was at the game and we were obviously at the opposite end to that, and it was right at the beginning of the second half, weren't it? And it was just like that was it. Once that goal had gone in, it was party time. But
I think with that game as well,
and that was like peak Sanchez as well. When I think I'd seen back on the replay, and Shay Given was like smiling.
Yeah, he probably just took it for what it was. So I didn't mean to interrupt you then, Adam. But the thing with that game as well is that no one expected us to lose, so you could just watch it and embrace it. You didn't have any sort of feeling behind you. There was no like worry. You just could just enjoy, relax, and watch us absolutely spank Aston Villa. It was
And do you know what? That's like one of the things I was going to mention, actually. I think that it's the most relaxed I've ever been at a football match of that magnitude. Like, because it was at the time where, you had to get tickets individually. So I've got a season ticket with my dad, and he didn't get one, but I did. So I went and I managed to go with a couple of guys that I know from going to Arsenal and that. And there was three of us, but we all sitting separately, but we all went together for the day, etc. And I remember getting there and I sat down at my seat, got your little flag. And the guy next to me just said, I'm on my own. I said, I'm on my own as well. He goes, oh, that's all right. He goes, well, I get a little bit excited. I was like, well, so do I. We'll be all right then. And then the more you're talking about it, pretty much a dozen guys all around us were all on their own, all singles. That was it. And I think Walcott didn't score until just before half time. It was quite tense up until then. Right. But then once Walcott scored, you knew Villa weren't going to get back into it. And the second half, I just remember sitting back. Yeah, I remember just the second half, sitting back after about an hour with half an hour to go, literally just relaxed, and I could just enjoy it. And I don't ever remember a cup final like that, just being able to sit back, relax, enjoy the atmosphere, singing along, and it was brilliant. It was such a great experience to be that, because usually you're on tenterhooks, but it just wasn't like that. It was so one-way traffic, it was unreal.
No, it was, that was probably the only, well, you're right, that's probably the only cup final that certainly I can remember where it was that relaxed, like that early in the game. Usually we're either behind and we're coming from behind, or it's 1-0 or it's 1-1, or there's loads of drama and
clinging on.
Exactly. And that game was the complete opposite of that. And it's our biggest ever victory in a cup final as well, 4-0 in the end. And it could, I mean, we should have been 4-0 up at half time. We missed chance after chance, didn't we, until Walcott scored. And I was starting to feel, you mentioned about being tense. I kind of started to feel as though we might regret these chances, because if you don't score when you're on top of a game, you can concede a goal and suddenly it goes against you. Although Villa wasn't very good, that's always a possibility. So it kind of, but you're right. Once Walcott put that one in, a great finish actually on his left foot. Walcott, that wasn't it?
It was
great
finish,
actually.
Won me £100.
That was Tim Sherwood's Villa team, wasn't it?
Yeah, Tim Sherwood. Yeah.
Even better.
No, but it was
an awful
great
Villa side, didn't it? That was a real awful side.
Yeah, and then like you said in the second half, as soon as Sanchez got that wonder goal, from about 25, 30 yards that dipped in, as soon as we got that goal, you knew we'd won. And it was just a matter of enjoying the last half an hour or so, wasn't it, in a relaxed atmosphere, which is unusual for Arsenal. So yeah, that was memorable for that. It wasn't really a memorable, kind of quite like the drama of Arsenal in cup finals where it's in the balance. I kind of quite like that, but maybe that's just because I'm just used to it. It's unusual to have a cup final like that, maybe, and I do like a bit of drama and a last minute winner and stuff like that. It's quite exciting, isn't it? But that was maybe memorable for that other reason, maybe. Yeah. Ryan's here as well now. Ryan, of course, from the Mr. Arsenal podcast is here. How you doing, Ryan? You all right?
Yeah, sorry I'm late. I've literally been manic all day, so I do apologise, but I'm good, thanks. How are you?
No worries at all. It's good to have you here. Anyway, I mean, what we've gone through so far, just quickly, is the first cup final and the best goals. I mean, we've obviously done the first cup final. What was the first cup final that you remember Arsenal being in, and what was the first one you was actually at in the stadium?
The first one was at the stadium was 2002. My granddad on my mum's side, he had friends that worked at Arsenal, so he was able to get tickets that way. So that was that one, and that was again because obviously what happened the year before and all that against Liverpool, and actually being there, and obviously Ray Piles scoring that goal and running off into the Sunside, Dixon grabbing hold of him, and a few minutes later, and then was it Lundberg, the second goal as well. It was just relief that went at the triple. What Arsenal I think now was being 10, 11 at the time. And being my first, again, my granddad was a West Ham fan, but again, as I said, he knew people that worked at Arsenal. It was like an early birthday present because my birthday fell in literally 2 days' time anyway, on the 20th. And obviously the final took place on the 4th of May, so it was like an early birthday thing. And I was like, so it was again, there was one because it won it. I enjoyed it even more because it's great having a birthday present to a cup final, but when you don't win it, it's like a bit of a gut, gut sort of thing. First cup final I took notice of, what probably sat down and watched the entire build up, the entire match, and afterwards was '98 when we against Newcastle, Wenger's first full season. We won the double, and then Elka had just broken through that season. He absolutely come out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and it was just a fantastic. Mark Overmars was my favourite player that season. He got us over the line so many times.
Yeah, he did.
I think also that season was when Bergkamp did the hat trick against Leicester and got goal of the month for first, second, and third in that game. That final was so good. Again, it was 2-0. The goal that game could have gone either way. There's chances they had. I mean, Shearer missed an absolute
post. The post. That's right.
And I think that was that. I don't think that was been that long ago. I think that was 0-0. We just gone 1-0 up, something like that. I think it was 0-0.
I think it was 1-0 up at the time. Yeah, when he hit the post. And then
when he hit the post,
the second goal soon after. Yeah.
Yeah, literally. That second goal sort of killed the game.
Yeah.
But again, the goals we scored that showed the quality we had compared to them and how dominant we were that season in the second half of that season. Because again, first half of the season we were over the place.
Yeah, we were.
But yeah, that again at the old Wembley as well. He couldn't ask. It was glorious sunshine, and yeah, I mean, and you've seen the team again go up and lifting Tony Adams lifting the trophies, Seaman, Dixon, and David Seaman gave one of my childhood heroes in that yellowy goldie kit, and getting grabbed by the face by Lee Dixon as he gets the trophy. Yeah, I've got that behind me as well. He signed it a few years ago. I met him a few years back. And he signed it. I was like, oh, geez.
Wow.
So yeah, I mean, that was that was one hell of a day because, as I said, 0-0 and 1-0. If Shearer scores that goal and does it at the post, there's a different. That could be a different result.
Yeah, it could have been.
And
Yeah,
we don't look back on it. But the fact that the mentality of, we're not going to let our heads drop here. We're going to pick ourselves up and go again, and that's it. We're going to fucking nail these bastards and make them work their life not worth living. But yeah, the 2002 final again at the London Derby as well in Cardiff, and what happened the year before to us as well. The unjustified hurt that we had to go through because referee didn't know his backside from first base. He couldn't tell who was a goalkeeper for Liverpool at one point. That's how bad he was.
No, it was, yeah. That was a bad one for us.
I mean, that Liverpool final when Henry was rounded Westerveld, went to have a shot. Hunt or Huppier got back and handled the ball, saved it with a hand, and he didn't even get a corner.
Right.
It's a goal kick.
It's a goal kick, yeah. It should have been a penalty and a red card, and it was a goal kick. So the referee got that one right, clearly. But no, that was a nightmare, that one. But like you said, obviously 2002 made up for that, didn't it? Beating Chelsea as well. The fact it was Chelsea at that time, Chelsea was just about to get all their money, wasn't it? I think a year or so after that, they took over, didn't he? So we managed to kind of beat them before we got to that point. And we've got Danny in the chat. I think he's from your show, isn't he, Den? He says, big up the 2017 Cup final for me. Yeah,
absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I'll definitely touch on that. Believe me. We were just talking about this as well, weren't we? About how we've done Chelsea over 3-4 times. Well, in my generation, at least 3. So yeah, definitely. Absolutely echo everything he's just said.
Yeah, no, that was a memorable, obviously a memorable final. What about the best goals then, Ryan, that spring to your mind in FA Cup final goals? I mean, we've spoken about the Sanchez one against Aston Villa. I think we all agree that's probably the best goal possibly in a final that we've scored. But I mean, there's been plenty of other good ones as well, hasn't there?
I'd have been loads thinking about it now. Literally, I mean, the two goals go back to '98. Both goals in that final were absolutely top quality. I mean, Overmars doing his usual thing he did that season, trademark, run down the wing, cut inside, bang. And then Anelka did, and then obviously an Anelka goal. I mean, Ray Parlour against Chelsea in the 2002 final with the infamous, it's only Ray Parlour, didn't have a shot basically. Okay, boom, fuck off. I'm trying to think. And then Ramsey, obviously you've got to say Ramsey, you've got to put him in there. Even though it wasn't a great goal, it was a goal that ended our 9-year duck of winning fuck all. And it meant, because of that, it meant so much more, because he obviously goes off and does his modern day Charlie George flat at the back, soaking it all up. But that was Santi Cazorla's free kick in that 24 World Cup final. That was key. 40 minutes in 2-0 down. That took a lot.
Make or break, wasn't
it? Yeah. It took a lot for him to take it, because again, he could have took that free kick and it could have hit the crossbar and come back out and been nothing. But for him to have the bottle to do that, and it was so good. Again, if you watch it back in the slow mo, the way he's obviously hit it, the slight turn of the ball just helps it dip at the right time.
Yeah. No, that was a great goal. And actually, that one's probably my favourite final. Actually, I would say out of all of them that I've been to, the 2014 one. But we'll come on to that a little bit later. Yeah, I mean that goal, the Cazorla free kick, has to be up there as well. And I mean, we have scored some great goals. Obviously, the one Aubameyang scored last year, the winning goal in last year's final, that was a good goal, wasn't it?
Good finish. Took it well, didn't he? Took it well.
With his left foot, dinked it over the keeper.
Right left foot, boom.
Yeah,
he hasn't got that in his locker now, though.
Well, he doesn't seem to have. He doesn't seem to have anything in his locker at the minute. It's empty, but I'm sure he'll score a few more goals. I mean, that goal actually, the one Adam spoke about before, the Ian Wright one against Sheffield Wednesday, similar sort of finish, wasn't it? The way he sort of dinked it over the keeper, different goal, but the finish was quite similar, wasn't it? The way he kind of waited for the keeper and then sort of dinked it over him. That was a great goal.
Poor defending though as well, wasn't it? Like when you look at it realistically. They made it easy for him. They made it so easy for him. But that was the best thing I've seen Aubameyang do, definitely. And the fact he took us all the way as well. He did it in the semis, and then he carried on in the final. Love it.
Yeah, I mean it's
Then he
it's
just sat
strange
back for
actually.
the rest of the year.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But it's funny because I mean, obviously Alexis Sanchez previously had scored important goals in semi-finals. He got the winner against Man City. He scored 2 against Reading, didn't he? And then he scored. Only imagine it's going to be that sort of player who can do that for us. But in actual fact, Aubameyang did it in the semi-final and the final. It's different type of player, isn't he? Aubameyang to Sanchez. Sanchez was the player that you knew. If he was on the pitch, you had a chance of beating anybody because he was capable of doing something on his own, and he won us a lot of big games. Whereas Aubameyang, he's not that sort of player, is he? And he came up trumps, didn't he, for us last year in the FA Cup in the semi-final and in the final.
I still think he's underrated for us. I still think that Sanchez is underrated for us. A lot of people slate him now after the season that Aubameyang's had. A lot of people are starting, and obviously with like people are saying, "Oh, signing players and getting rid of players to our rivalry and stuff like that." People slander Sanchez, but what you got to remember is what he done for us, like what you just touched on there with the FA Cups, and how. And I think he also brought the best of an end to Ozil. Like when he came in, we just started to see Ozil shine again, and I just think people are forgetting everything he's done. Like, yeah, fair enough. We sold him onto Man United, and he had an absolute mare there. But for us, he didn't put a foot wrong, in my opinion. I find it quite like I read some things on social medias and I find it quite disrespectful because the way there's such worse fish out there. Do you get what I mean? Like, I find it slanderous.
I mean, I said last night on the sort of part 1 of this show that I believe Alexis Sanchez is the best player of the Emirates era. Up till now, I think he's the best player that we've had in that era. Certainly for the impact that he made, say the big goals that he scored in big games helped us to win 2 FA Cups almost single-handedly in some of those games. And I just think he's the best player of that era that we've had. I know Cazorla's probably up there as well, that great goal in the cup final. But for me, I think Sanchez is just the fact that he played in quite an average Arsenal team, if we're totally honest, and he often turned games on his own, didn't he, with individual bits of brilliance. And I agree, I thought he did bring the best out of Ozil as well. They seem to have an understanding, didn't they? And, it obviously worked because they scored a lot of goals between them, didn't they, in terms of goals and assists for each other and stuff like that. So, but yeah, for me, he's the best player that we've had for a long time, in actual fact. And I was gutted when he went. And yeah, unfortunately,
that's when we saw Ozil. Like as soon as Sanchez left, that's when all of a sudden Ozil was out of the picture. That's what made me quite interested. I thought, that's a coincidence. You're not going to try him on with anyone else. You're just going to see him off with the other one. But that showed you how much of an impact he had on other people's performances because he was, like you just said, he was the star out of nothing, really, because we had absolute deadwood going and the players that were good were coming to an end and he kept people going.
Exactly. And I mean, I can remember, going to a lot of games and waiting for the team lineup to be announced and stuff like that. And you always knew that no matter what other 10 players were in the team, if Sanchez was in that team, you knew we had a chance of getting a result because he could produce something from nothing. And he did it time after time, didn't he? I remember so many games when Sanchez scored a goal or assisted a goal when we didn't look like we were going to get anything out of the game. And suddenly it's turned and we've got a result. And he did that so many times. And to me, I didn't care what other 10 players were playing. As long as Sanchez was in the team, I was reasonably happy because I knew we had a chance of getting a result. And we haven't had a player like that since. And we didn't really have too many before, really. I suppose in before we had 4 or 5 players that could turn the game. When we had Henry and Pires and Lundberg and all of those, any of those could have turned the game. But when Sanchez was playing, he was pretty much the only one that we had that you could rely on to do that on a consistent basis. And it was a shame how it all finished, really. But he's the one who's lost that because his career's gone to shit since he left. So
also with Sanchez as well. The one thing that got me in hysterics, but also concerned at the same time, was the one thing that he got chucked under the bus was wanting to win and wanting to win more than just the FA Cup. But how dare he have a winning mentality? I mean, Hector Bellerin actually come out and said he upsets us because he wants to win. I'm like, okay, why are you there then? You don't want to win. Why are you there?
Says exactly. I mean, in all fairness, he has been bad since he left Arsenal. But look at where he's at now. He's at Inter Milan. And he's just won the Serie A. But that shows how low we've come from the years we've just spoke about for God knows, since I've joined, since I just come on here. all we spoke about is how we used to be, you know, glory hunters, and now we're at a position where you want glory, and all of a sudden you're being looked down upon because of it, because you're obviously he clearly was just in a different league to the players he was playing with, because the way I see it, he'd seen silverware and had that, you know, hunger. He'd had that hunger about him and had that grit and fire to go and win matches, to go and win silverware. But the others, they hadn't won silverware in 14 years at the time, whatever it was. So I guess I can understand, because they're probably thinking this is a bit overwhelming. But also, if you're not there to win silverware, okay, win matches, fine. But if you don't want to get to a position where you are fighting for silverware, what's the point of even stepping foot on that field? Because that's what you're there to do. And I'll say that about any player that comes into Arsenal. Like next season, obviously, we're going to see a few new faces. If I see the sort of comments that we just spoke about with Bellerin saying, "Oh, why do you want to win so much?" Oh, get him out the door straight away.
I mean, Tierney walked through the door. Look at the mentality he inherited at Celtic, and they was all complaining he was too harsh on them in training.
Another thing with that as well.
That's what's been installed into him, though.
What shows it is how everyone says within how long has Tierney been there? 2 years, less than 2 years. He's not even had 2 years of game time, and not even 2 years of game time. He's been injured throughout most of it, and straight away people want him as our captain. That shows you what this is going on a different subject, but which none of us probably want to go on to. But that shows you what our team has become. No one wants to win. The fact that a Scottish little left back can walk in, no disrespect to Tierney, I love him, but the fact that he's walked in and barely played, injury prone out more than anyone, and all of a sudden he's our wanted captain, that shows you that no one wants anything there. They've got to become the team they once were, really.
No, you're right. And I mean, the only way you become successful as a team is you need to have a lot of players in your team that are winners and will do anything to win games. And since we've kind of got rid of those players slowly, you know, over the last few years, and what we've been left with are players that haven't got that mentality. And that's why we're where we are now. Although we did, of course, win the FA Cup last year, which I say the big players stepped up when we needed them in those particular games, but they don't do it often enough today in the so-called lesser games in the Premier League week in, week out, when, you know, you don't have that hype of a big cup game. And that's unfortunately, Sanchez had that hype for every single game he played, whether it was against Lincoln City in the FA Cup or whether it was against Manchester City or Liverpool, whoever it was. He had the same mentality going into every single game, and that's why he was the player that he was. And we have missed him, and we really have. And until we get a few more players with that mentality coming into the squad, into the team, we're probably not going to make us the progress that we want. But anyway, I mean, you know, Sanchez helped us win 2 FA Cups, didn't he, in his time there? And he scored in both finals as well. I mean, the second final against Chelsea, when he got that goal that was maybe a bit offside, not him, but Ramsey was offside, wasn't he? And the goal was given, and it could have been a handball maybe in a build-up as well. But
now it would be. Now it would be ruled out about 3 or 4 times.
It probably would have been, actually. That goal probably would have been ruled out.
For VAR.
Yeah, good job it wasn't around then, because I think it definitely would have been ruled out. But yeah, I mean, I say he did get goals in the big game, didn't he, at Wembley for us, which was fantastic, really. I mean, I know we've obviously, you know, most of you guys, you know, a bit younger than me, so you probably only remember sort of successful FA Cups. We haven't lost that many, actually. We've only lost one of our last 10 FA Cup finals. So I was going to kind of come on to maybe your worst memories of the FA Cup finals. I'm guessing you might well all have the same one. If we start with you, Adam, then what would be your worst kind of FA Cup final, or your worst memory from an FA Cup final?
It's the Liverpool 2001 Liverpool game for me. And I was working and living abroad at the time. One of the things that always come back to me earlier as well, like, which I found weird, that when Arsenal gets cup finals, they seem to do things on a row. You know, it was 78, 79, 80, and then it was 0-1, 0-2, 0-3. And then, more recently, we've been in 4 of the last 5. We get on these little tangents, but that's another matter. Anyway, Liverpool. I remember watching it. I was living abroad in Portugal, And I remember sitting in this pub being really comfortable because we were all over them. I was gutted that I weren't there. Like I had my friends and family who were at the game. Obviously, I was very, very envious and very jealous. But I was sitting and I was so relaxed, up until that last kind of 10 minutes, and then it just all went to pot. Like you mentioned earlier about the handball, it was obvious the ref had a complete nightmare. But I can't remember the substitutions. But I remember thinking at the time, Wenger made a couple of dodgy subs, and at the time I was thinking, why are you doing this? When we were 1-0 up, I think he made a couple of dodgy subs that I can't remember exactly who was for who. But it just seems to remember that I was screaming, why are you subbing this player? Why are you subbing this player? And I can't for the life of me, maybe one of you guys can. But yeah, that's the one for me that still stings because Liverpool weren't great then. They weren't that great a team. They had a lot of, I think they had like Owen, Fowler, they had Gerrard, young Gerrard, but they weren't a great side. Yeah, they weren't a great side. And we were at the top of our game. We should have been, we should have been 3 or 4 up. And then to lose it like 2 goals in the last sort of closing stages was a killer, really.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. Wasn't one of the substitutes? Did he not take off? Was it Bergkamp maybe and brought on a defender or something like that? Wasn't it? I seem to remember. I agree.
It was.
Yeah, he did make a couple of sort of defensive substitutions as though we were going to sit back on the lead rather than try and kill the game off, which is what we should have done because we were so dominant. And then, of course, in the last 10 minutes, as you said, Michael Owen gets them 2 goals. I mean, that kind of spelt the end, actually, of that famous back four, if you like, because Dixon played, I think that was his last sort of game, wasn't it? Tony Adams, I think it was, he was going to retire at the end of that season, wasn't he? I think as well. So he was going. And who was left back in that final?
Ashley Cole first.
Was it
Ashley Cole? I think, yeah.
It might have been Ashley Cole, yeah. But I mean, you could tell that we had a bit of an aging defence, and in that game, it got exposed, didn't it? Michael Owen's pace in the last 2 minutes.
Yeah, Kieran Adams was a pairing for that.
Yeah, Kieran Adams, and Dixon was 3 in the back 4.
Yeah.
None of them were getting any younger when they was all well in their 30s at that point. And I think that maybe pushed, I think, Arsene Wenger into realising that he had to reinforce the defence, and he obviously brought in a few new defenders, didn't he? Kolo Touré, of course, Sol Campbell, as we know, came in, didn't he, after that, and a couple of others. So he had to. That kind of, I think, that forced him into having to do it actually, because he'd got as much out of them that defence as he could, and he knew they needed replacing.
Done well. He done very well.
Yeah, and he replaced them with a defence that would end up going into the Invincible season a couple of years later. So but I think that was the thing that, although it was disappointing at the time, maybe when you look back on it, maybe that actually did us a favour a little bit, because it maybe forced Wenger into realising he had to reinforce the defence, and it maybe pushed him into having to do that a little bit quicker than he may have done otherwise. I mean, what would that be the same for you then? Would that be your most disappointing, worst kind of moment, worst final?
I mean, in terms of age, I probably wasn't old enough to remember it now. I was, what was I then? 8 years old. It was gutting. I mean, unfortunately enough, I'm full of a family of United fans. So I would have probably got it on the TV here or there, getting absolutely slandered. But my worst one is probably going to be one of my best when you look at it in terms of like this generation, because obviously, like we just touched on, we haven't really had success for 14 years. We haven't been in the final for a while. My worst one's probably got to be Hull, just for the fact the way it started. Well, when you look at it, I've either got, going back then, I've only got Hull, and the other ones were quite good. They were quite a success. I think it's got to be the way that. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't say easy. I mean, we're probably touching it. Yeah, but the Chelsea games, last year wasn't easy. It was bloody stress from my heart. I don't know about you boys. Coming out, even last year, like we'd been in a lockdown since March. First time we're proper all back out in the pub. We see us go 1-0 down to Chelsea in 10 minutes. That was bad. But going 2-0 down to Hull. If I'm gonna look at it the way that what got my heart pumping the most, which I think is probably the worst, I think it's got to be that going down 2-0 down to Hull. I know we won in the end, but I did not feel good for that. I really did not. And as much as I'd like to say the Liverpool game, because I do vaguely remember that, I don't think I was at an age where I can really experience what I need to experience. I feel like whereas with the whole game, I was going through every shit emotion possible, Yeah, and to be honest, I don't think you'll ever get that either. A team like Hull going 2-0 up in an FA Cup final against Arsenal, and us ended up winning it
in the opening 10 minutes as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I think that was just different kettle of fish. That was completely. I don't think if I see that again in my lifetime, I'll be quite honoured. As long as it isn't to Arsenal, I'll be quite happy to see that again. I think it was just exciting, but I'm glad we got the win. Obviously, like we came back and like we just touched on with Cazorla free kick, that was a moment of magic, and it just sort of got the wheels in motion, didn't it? But that was just unbelievable. That first like half hour, whatever it was unbearable. I didn't even want to.
That was a stressful cup final. That was very stressful.
Like I think the problem was is like Ryan just said, it happened all so early, and I thought I don't even want to watch this shit anymore. But you wanted to because it's your team and it's an FA Cup final. But it's like, do you really want to? Because I mean, not many teams can come back from 2-0 in an FA Cup final. Wembley's and at that. We weren't the Wembley success that we are now either. Back then, we didn't know what to.
We've got to be lucky though.
I mean,
lucky that we played Hull.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, yeah, definitely we were.
Any other team would not have let a 2-goal lead slip that easy. Well, not that easy. You know, what I mean, they would have held that.
No, you're totally right. I mean, that was actually our first FA Cup final at the new Wembley as well. So
that's what I mean.
Yeah,
and we're up against this shit Hull side.
Yeah,
and we got 2-0 down.
And if you remember as well, we'd struggled to beat Wigan in the semi-final at Wembley as well because that got the penalties. They were a championship team.
That's what I mean.
They're the holders. They're now the holders, but we made hard work of that semi-final.
Yeah, we did.
The
late goal, and then we won on penalties, didn't we? So we didn't have great form at Wembley, new Wembley, coming into that game. In fact, I don't think we'd won at the new Wembley because we'd lost.
Who would have thought? Who would have thought that after that? Who would have thought that after that run, we'd end up against our rivals, two finals running. We'd end up against City in the semis. You know, like it's quite amazing, Stephen. Back to back.
Yeah, no, it is incredible, really, how it kind of works out, really. But yeah, I mean, the whole final for me, I know in the end it was fantastic. Yeah, it was stressful for a long time. I agree. It was, you're looking at it.
But it's also my best. It's also my best, though.
Going on?
What an ending. Ramsey getting the last. I'm always going to remember him for that. I'm always going to remember Ramsey for scoring that winner. And I know there's a lot of talk of him coming back now. Like a lot of people say, I'd have Ramsey back in a heartbeat. I wouldn't personally, but I would just for the sake he got them sort of goals, them winning goals at Wembley. Oh, it's magic. Yeah.
He's another one who had that winning mentality, isn't he? That again we talked about that maybe we're lacking in the team now, and it would definitely help on that side of it. I mean, Ryan, with your worst cup final, would it be that Liverpool one then, or any others really? I know we've won most of the others in the end.
I mean, for me, because just based on the fact, it's got to be Liverpool for me because based on the fact we went into it, not just for that, we dominated the entire game, and then not just it wasn't just Wenger's weird subs that changed the game. It was Gary McAllister coming on. The second he came on, it's Liverpool came alive on the set pieces, and that was the thing that I remember commentators saying, "Don't give any set pieces away," because he was a set piece specialist at that time. He was known for it. And what do we go and do 5 minutes later? Give away a free kick, and what's he going to do? Hoofs it in, and fucking Owen just is there on the half volley, and it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake! And then obviously we're like, we've got to go for this. We've got to kill this game, and then we overcommit at 1-1. We're overcommitting, and we get caught on a counter. One ball over the top to Owen, and he just runs, and you're just watching it, even alive. You're thinking, oh, he's going to score. He's going to score. And obviously he did, and it's just like, oh, okay. And it's just like a sucker punch of seriously. Are we actually losing a final like this? Especially when you throw into the equation that the referee, as we touched on, had an absolute fucking nightmare. Anything that sort of I think we sort of had at least two. I mean, we touched on the Honcho handball that was giving us a goal kick. I think there was at least one other penalty we should have had, but we were absolutely all over them up till that last 10 minutes, and then we just fell apart.
All over them.
I mean, but as you said, Richard, I think being that's pretty much that moment and then what happened, I think spurred Wenger on to go and get Sol Campbell in the summer. Was it Edu? Sol Campbell, Edu.
Yeah. We got a few that summer, didn't we?
Fanny Shinamoto, Fanny Jeffers, Richard Wright, but it spurred him on to get them sort of players into the club, even though some of them didn't work out. He knew he had to refresh certain areas and
rebuild things. I think that was the point where we finished runners up in the league. Yeah, we finished runners up in the league 3 years in a row, hadn't we? Yeah. Behind United, we'd lost that cup final. We'd lost to Galatasaray the year before in the UEFA Cup final, and we kept kind of losing big games and just falling short. And I think that was the final straw for Wenger. I think he knew he had to rebuild the team a little bit to take us on to more success, which obviously he did, and he did it brilliantly because we went on to even greater success following that cup final, actually. So as disappointing as it was, and I was absolutely gutted at the time, when Michael Owen scored them goals, in the end, maybe it actually did us a favour as a club because it forced Wenger to have to rebuild and
not just that. But also not just that, for the players that remained, it sort of spurred them on. Like, 3 years in a trot, we've finished second in the league into a cup final. We bottled that basically. Now we ain't apples. And obviously the following season, and even 2002-03 in the league, we were above and beyond for 3 seasons pretty much, and we only won 2 titles.
We blew the
2003, but it sort of spurred them on to become this all-conquering, swashbuckling Arsenal we came to love and admire on a week-to-week basis. The football standard of football got better and better every season as well. The style of it as well. It was absolutely fun. So I was just loving it, but I do get where Dan comes from when it comes to Hull, and the thing is that final and the semi-final we touched on, that summed up our season in abundance.
It was the start of what means to go on dreadfully, unfortunately.
Yeah, definitely. But that's again. I know we talk about cup final, but that semi-final was the most stressful I've ever been at that time. I was like, how are we making a pig's? I know they're the cup holders, but they're in a championship. They're not going to get. They weren't going to get automatic either. They had to go via playoffs in the end. But
seems like it was written to lose, didn't it? I thought we were going to lose.
It felt like it did.
I thought we were going to lose.
Yeah, the second Mertesacker lunged in the way he did, I went, even for the referee blew whistle, I went, you fucking idiot, you're giving away a penalty, and you go to penalty. I was like, great. Then obviously he scores it in front of the Wigan fans that came down. I think of the time it was
all 25 of them, by the way. All 25 of them.
I sat there. I must have been the most annoying person in the household. I was like, they fucked it. Easiest finding a load of bottle jobs. They can all piss off. Literally, and then obviously the goal, the flukiest goal we could ever get.
Yeah, it was.
The half shot from Oxlade Chambers.
I think was he offside as well? Was he offside when he scored that Mertesacker?
I have no idea, but it's a weird position as well. The way he headed it is weird.
Probably.
As well.
In these days, he probably was. I mean, anyone. You could look back at every goal we've scored in the FA Cup final. They're probably all offside.
They'd have found a way of disallowing them all, wouldn't they? Probably. But no, that semi-final was terrible actually, and we were lucky to get through. Was it Fabianski made them saves, wasn't it, in the shootout?
In the penalty shootout, Fabianski was the cup goalkeeper. Arguably his best performances for Arsenal his entire time. It came at the end of his time.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did, and he was brilliant in that semi-final and in that shootout. I remember him saving a couple of them penalties, didn't he?
No, he did show a bit of his normal Arsenal form in the final. When we go 3-2 up, they almost scored the last kick of the game.
They did actually,
comes flying out, needs to go wide open.
Yeah, that's right. It was Aluko, wasn't it? Aluko had that shot, and someone got back and cleared it away. Yeah, no, that was a bit of a stressful day, as we know. But I mean, obviously, the fact that we've, the only real disappointment that we can talk about happened 20 years ago against Liverpool. It just shows how great we've been in the FA Cup final actually, and how many great memories that we've got. I mean, if you was to speak to pretty much fans of most other clubs, they would have a lot more. Their list of worst FA Cup final memories would be a lot longer than what ours is. So we're quite lucky, aren't we? That
off Chelsea.
We've only really got that one. I mean, I don't really remember. I remember watching them on telly, the ones in the 70s and that against Ipswich and against West Ham, and we lost and like that. I was only young and I hadn't really been to games at that point in my life, so it didn't maybe affect me as much as it would have done later on. And it's only really that Liverpool one. It's the only one that we've lost, that I've seen us lose. So it's great, really. And it's, you know, I would hate to have done a show about the worst cup final moments and we were spending an hour just on that, because that would have been quite depressing, actually. But luckily we can skip through the worst bits quite quickly, because, you know, it's pretty much that game, Liverpool, and the first 10 minutes against Hull, and that's all we've got to worry about.
We've won like what? I'm guessing, I reckon we won what, 14?
14, yeah.
14
together, yeah.
I mean, the problem is we've just only won FA Cups recently. That's probably the problem. Whereas if we'd have won a league title or two, you could probably look at us and say, look, we've still got contention for being one of the best teams in England. But the fact we've only won that trophy, and like, obviously a lot of people look up at that European, you know, the Europa League. And that was why that just before we move on, that was why that Europa League final between us and Chelsea was the big fish, because we could have won that and said, look, we've got this now, you know, we've got this to add to our tally. But otherwise it's just a case of the fact, that's why it was.
Even at a cup final 2011, we could have added that to our list as well. We've never had a good record in the
That
League
is
Cup.
why it was just before we move on to the good parts, that is why it was so disappointing this year to see us completely bottle the FA Cup, because we put out such a dead squad against Southampton. And I thought, why are we doing it? It's our easiest opportunity of, and I mean, I'm saying that further on from that, City and United did the same thing. They treated it like a little dead cup. And I'm sure Pep might even go on to regret that. If Chelsea go and win the Champions League final now, Pep Guardiola will probably go on to regret it, because he'll think, oh, okay, I've ended up with a shitty little double, Premier League and Carabao. But I don't get why we did it, because we were the holders. As soon as you're the holders of any trophy, even if it's the Carabao Cup, put your full squad out. And I remember that game when we lost to him, and I think that's the most, honestly, I was that gutted then as I was when we lost to Villarreal, because I thought, why have we just gone and got knocked out to Southampton for no reason whatsoever, when it was a
few days later as well.
I mean, I think that you're right what you mentioned about the fact that everybody seems to, you know, not just the fans, but I think the managers and the players seem to focus everything on Europe, don't they? And if you're in Europe, I mean, you can understand maybe why Man City and Man United maybe didn't take the FA Cup as serious as they might have done, because when Man City were going for the league title, Man United was still in Europe as well, and you can maybe understand their kind of
they've got the squad. Really. They've got the squad, though. This is what I mean.
They have got the squad, but you can maybe understand if you're going to rotate. If Man City were going to rotate, they're going to rotate in the FA Cup because they'd won the League Cup already. They wasn't going to rotate in the Champions League, and they wanted to win the Premier League. So you can understand that was their game to rotate. But we literally, I mean, we were still in Europe, but we basically had nothing really to go for at that point in January. You might as well play your strongest team in the FA Cup. I mean.
At that point, we was in what? We was in group stage. So I'm thinking, we had the flexibility. We didn't even have any injuries then either.
Yeah.
I think it was that point where we'd started to improve our form. We'd gone through that awful November and we'd picked up in the league. And I think Arteta was a bit arrogant, thinking that we could get away with it, thinking that even if it didn't pay off, we're going to kick on in the league, which obviously we know didn't happen. But that, for me, was probably the mentality. It was like, well, you know, we're doing well now in the league. That's sorted. That's done. We're going to be top 4. FA Cup doesn't matter. But I think he was very arrogant, because Southampton were going good back then as well. It was at that stage where we were going good. Southampton.
I find it disgraceful.
We disrespected them. We disrespected Southampton.
I find it so I find it disrespectful to the club. You think we've won this 14 times. So for us to take it as a piss take, to me, I just think that's stupid and daft. It's the one it's the one competition which we're clearly, you know, we have some sort of power in. I know we say, like, we always go on about how we're good at Wembley. When Tottenham's ground was at Wembley, we all thrived off that. We're like, oh yeah, London Derby at Wembley. You know,
we still lost.
Yeah. Aubameyang last minute penalty. We won't go on about it, but you get what I mean. Like we all sort of like knew that Wembley was our turf, and then we just took it for granted. And the fact that anyone makes a misery of this competition, just to me, I find appalling, because it's the only good thing that English football has got going for it.
No. I mean, I agree. I mean, we said at the start, Adam, that the FA Cup is for me, it's the greatest tournament, and it's the greatest. The FA Cup final is the greatest day in the football calendar every year. And if for your team to be in it's fantastic. And for a club or a manager to throw that opportunity away for nothing, essentially, we had nothing else to play for, really, at that point in the season. Later on when you're still in Europa League and you're getting into the last stages of that, maybe then you could think about it, but not in January. As Adam rightly pointed out, we were just turning our league form around. It was a bit of momentum we could have built up there, an FA Cup run as well. We'd have actually been in Leicester's side of the draw, wouldn't we? Because Leicester ended up beating Southampton, and I think we could have beaten Leicester. I really do. And then we could have gone on the final and played Chelsea again and beat them for another time. That'd be 4 times then. That'd have been good. But unfortunately, we threw it away. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy, really. Kevin in the chat there, he says he was around the halfway line at the Millennium Stadium when it's only Ray Parlour versus Chelsea. Yeah, that was a fantastic goal, wasn't it? What a strike that was. We was going mad in that when that went in. Just brilliant times. And and that was even more important, that Ray Parlour goal, actually, because it was a year after that Liverpool game when we dominated and lost from 1-0 up. And, we were playing quite well in that Chelsea game. But to get that goal, I think just gave everyone the belief that we would go on and win that. And then obviously Ljungberg got the second one virtually straight after as well, didn't he? Terry's in the chat as well. How you doing, Terry? He says, good evening, Richard, Ryan, Adam and Dan. And Shane earlier on, we were talking about Sanchez. He says Sanchez was a brilliant player. Sad he went to United. 500,000, and not to City. I mean, he wanted to go to City, didn't he, originally? And then that fell
nearly
through.
happened, did it, on the last day, wasn't it? I think it was the last day. It was
City
all
between
City one or the other.
And he never wanted to play for us after that, did he? The rest of that season, he was not that great. And then he moved in January, didn't he, in the end, to United, because they're the only ones who wanted him.
He made the right move. I think he made the right move, though. Even though he was poor at United, I don't see him in City. I just don't think especially that season, he wouldn't have got in City because they had Sane. He would have just been up against different kettle. He would have been up too much competition, and
maybe that's what he might have needed, though. He might have needed that to better players around him to really push him, because he maybe got quite comfy at Arsenal. Maybe, I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. I
mean, Melvin there says he totally agrees. I'm assuming that was to do with throwing the FA Cup away. Exactly. I mean, I think that was a crazy decision, one of many that Arteta's made this season. But anyway,
we'd have been there. I honestly agree with what you said as well. I think, like what you said, I think we would have been there. I mean, we beat Leicester 3-1. I know that Leicester have had their injuries, but they've only just got Maddison back. So realistically, we would have been playing the team that we played in the league, and we seemed to do a good job against them. And they had Harvey Barnes in that game. If my memory's correct, I think he got injured against us.
He did, that's right.
Yeah.
Right. So, and also as well, I mean, Southampton, as Adam said before, when we played Southampton, they were in pretty good form at that point, and their form really dropped off. So by the time when Leicester played them later on, their form had dropped right off. So Leicester beat them quite comfortably, and I think we would have beaten Leicester if we'd beaten Southampton and stayed in it, because I think it was Wolves next, and then Leicester wasn't in the round after. Yeah. And I think we would have. I think we would have done that. The semi-final would have been against Man United, wasn't it? Leicester beat Man United, didn't they, in the semi-final? So,
but then also you've got to look at it a case of if we got this far in the FA Cup, what sort of team would we have for the Europa League? Because it would have probably been a bit too much for the squad we've got. I mean, at the moment, we can't exactly put two teams out at the moment. So maybe it's a bit of
But then sometimes a bit of momentum when you're winning games and you've got big cup games coming. Everybody wants to play, don't they? You want to be fit. And the problem we would have been the left back situation, because Kieran Tierney was still got injured, and we would have been a little bit stuck there, wouldn't we? And maybe that would have cost us in the end anyway, and maybe we wouldn't have won it. But you never know. But to me, you don't throw away the cup in that early round. You try and go as far as you can. And if you lose later on because you've got injuries and you've got problems, then fair enough. But what we did, that was ridiculous, and it cost us an opportunity. I mean, Arteta had an opportunity. He's not going to, get many opportunities to win a trophy or to compete for trophies, and to throw away the one that we had a good chance in.
It's like you just said as well. A lot of even all the people, like believe me, I've been Arteta, not Arteta in, but I've been on his side from the get-go this season. But as soon as we got to the position where we're not even scoring in open play in our biggest game of the season, realistically, I don't want to go on to that because, like I said, we'll probably all just get depressed and start ranting. But the way I see it, the fact that he threw away the FA Cup is just a nail in the coffin, because it shows you that he hasn't bothered with that. He's come and got in a good position in Europa. He's bottled that completely. He took off our only strike. So the way I see it, FA Cup, it's the easiest one to win as well. You're up against teams you play twice a year.
Yeah, of course.
Sometimes you get lucky and play. Look at the other, like we've seen, because we're talking about FA Cup, we've seen some outrageous fixtures in an FA Cup final. Look at City Watford the other season. Look at that. Who would have ever thought Man City would play Watford?
I was looking back at it earlier. We had Portsmouth Cardiff not so long ago.
I
mean,
we did. Yeah, I remember that one. I mean, there has been some like Wigan. Obviously, Wigan played in a cup final, didn't they? Beat Man City. So you do get some smaller clubs do get to the cup final. Quite
that
regularly.
one. I'd have rather him bottled at Europa personally, because Europa, you're kind of expected to put out a second string anyway, because it's, you're playing midweek. You've got to prioritize. You've got to prioritize the league in some sort of perspective. Back then, anyway. Back then, you had to, and then you're playing every Thursday in the group stages. You're playing each team twice, so you expect to see your Nketiahs, maybe even your Ballagans and whoever, Willian maybe once or twice. But with FA Cup, I just don't get it. I don't see why you don't just put out what you've got there and then. I don't see. I mean, it's not exactly
a strongest team, I think.
Yeah, you just do it every time. And the only reason I think it's acceptable is if you're in a situation which we saw last week, where you're playing 3 games in 4 days or whatever it is. Other than that, I think you do everything you can to win the game.
Yeah, no, I completely agree.
Completely.
Kevin's in the chat. How you doing, Kevin? Thanks for tuning in. He says, even at the age of 57, I still get excited for the cup final, regardless of who's playing. Exactly. Yeah, I feel exactly the same.
Yeah,
I love the cup final on Saturday. Actually, I mean, part of me was disappointed that we wasn't in it, of course, because we've been in it quite a lot recently. But to watch the cup final every year is, I mean, I think I've watched every cup final since 1975. Either on the telly or I've been in the stadium if we've been in it. So it's been a massive part of my life every single year, and I still love it now. And some cup finals are not the greatest games, and some are, you remember them forever. But it's just the whole occasion of it, isn't it? It is, for me, it's the biggest game of the football season. It still is now. And I know clubs don't take it as serious anymore, and it doesn't have the same glamour to it. I mean, on the show last night, Martin actually, he was saying that he can remember a time back in the maybe 1960s, 1970s, when actually winning the FA Cup meant more to everybody than winning the league, because it was on the television. It was a big showpiece event, and to be part of that and to win
that worldwide, isn't it? Worldwide.
Yeah. Exactly, and at that time, when that was the only game on telly and stuff like that, it was a massive thing to win, and everybody wanted to win the FA Cup. Every player wanted to win the FA Cup. All the fans wanted to win the FA Cup, and it's sort of got diluted a bit over the years, which is a shame. But for me, and I agree with what Kevin said, I love the FA Cup final and everything about the FA Cup. When you've got the smaller teams in the earlier rounds that cause shocks. The non-league teams that get through, the guy works in the butchers during the week, or he's an electrician or something, what it is, and he scores a winning goal against Coventry or wherever it might be. And, they're great stories in the cup, but then obviously you get to the final and it's, it is still a fantastic event. And it's a shame that it hasn't maybe been taken as seriously by everybody like it used to. It is a shame.
But it's like you said, even Saturday, like me and the people I do my channel with, we all got together and had a bit of a few drinks, and we just thought FA Cup final. We watch it, and I mean, none of us are Chelsea fans. None of us are clearly Leicester fans. I mean, we're all from Hertfordshire, for God's sake. But it was just nice to enjoy, and now and then you see an underdog. Saturday was a perfect example of what I mean. Anyone can do it, so don't take it for granted. I'm glad. I'm hoping Leicester winning it this year will sort of wake up teams and think, you know what, this is a competition that you need to sort of go out there and fight for, because this will be the wake up call. And like I said, you don't just get a trophy. Leicester get Europa League with that as well now. So if they miss out on top 4. Some team, whoever's sick for whatever, is going to benefit from it. And it's like, you don't understand this. You don't understand what actually comes with it. Yeah, okay. Silverware may not mean a lot to you, but that'll mean massive things for Leicester, because they've won a trophy for one, and they could still get that. At the moment, they're depending on what happens tonight with Chelsea or whatever, they could get top 4. That's a big season for them. And it's just like, okay, and they've had some of their best players miss out. And I hope next season people think, oh, we've got to go for it this year. Leicester done it last year. Like what happened when Wigan won it, something like that. Hopefully it will just make the big teams wake up and smell the coffee because.
It's funny you say that because the last time there was a new winner of the FA Cup, right, which was actually Wigan in 2013. What happened next year? We won it. So hopefully next year we've got a new winner on it this year, and next year we might win it just to follow the pattern, which would be nice. But
I like those omens. I like those omens.
Exactly. Yeah, you got to cling on to something, haven't you? When you're as poor as we've been,
we can keep our fingers crossed, can't we?
Yeah, exactly. That's all that you can do, really, isn't it? Hope for the best. But you never know. I mean, I say historically that might go in our favour. And Paul's in the chat. How you doing, Paul? Thanks for watching. He says 79 is probably the greatest ever end to any final. 2 up and coasting. United dragged it back to 2-2, and then Rich Brady, Sunderland move, absolute magic. Yeah, I mean, I can remember watching it on telly. I was 10 years old at the time of that 79 Cup final. Obviously, Adam was born in 1979, so he won't remember that at all. But I can remember watching it on telly as a kid. It was fantastic. It was a fantastic final 5 minutes of that game. We'd gone from cruising at 2-0 to then getting pulled back to 2-2 and then scoring that last minute winner. Just amazing. That was unbelievable. I was a little
spot in pants then.
Well, yeah, exactly. It was a long time ago, but unfortunately, I was sort of 10 years old, 11 years old at that point. But no, I mean, it was that was obviously a great final, probably one of the greatest finals ever played. Actually, everybody remembers it because of the final 5 minutes. It was called the 5-minute final, and beating Man United in a final is great. That kind of leads me on a little bit because I wanted to talk about that 2005 final against Manchester United where we got absolutely battered for 90 or 120 minutes, if you include it, and somehow we managed to win on penalties. I mean, was you at that final, Adam? Did you go to that one?
So no, that was actually the first day of my honeymoon. Was
it? Wow.
It was the first day. Like I was actually, I can't tell the wife this; she's not here. But I was really annoyed that we weren't. I was really annoyed that we booked our wedding and honeymoon at that time because it was cup final day, and we were in the Caribbean, and it was like 7 o'clock in the morning, kickoff Caribbean time, and the morning of our honeymoon, my wife's around the pool, and I'm in our room with the minibar watching the cup final. Like, yeah, I'm not that proud. I'm not that proud of it. But I weren't going to miss it. But let's just say that was the first day of the honeymoon, and it got the honeymoon off to the right start. So watched it all there, and we were awful, weren't we? Thankfully it was all inclusive, so it was all right. It was all. I remember that. So I think I had to call them up and get it refilled afterwards, though.
Yeah.
But the worst thing was it was 7 o'clock in the morning, so come 11 o'clock I was gone. We were awful though. We were awful that final.
Yeah,
was it Reyes who got sent off? Was it?
Yeah, it was.
Well?
Double booking.
Yeah.
But even though we were awful, the satisfaction at the end of actually coming through and winning that was unreal. The satisfaction at the end, it really was. The fact that we were so bad, like if we would have lost that, I would have been like, "Well, we were awful, fair enough."
Yeah.
Terrible.
This takes us back a little bit, though. Like what we were talking about. Sorry to interrupt you there, Adam. What we were talking. What we were talking about earlier about grit and stuff in the game.
Yeah.
Like, you think of the players that were playing in that match, and you look at the.
Oh yeah.
If you put out an Arsenal versus Man United now, they'd put them to disgrace.
Yeah.
You got McTominay up against Scholes. You got Vieira up against El Neni. You know what I mean? Like,
oh God, yeah, terrible, wasn't it?
Rooney Ronaldo, Man United had Rooney Ronaldo in there.
Yeah, what was it? The three R's, wasn't it? Rude, Ronaldo, Rooney, wasn't it?
I think. Yeah, it was actually.
Scary team when you think about it. Scary team there.
Different. I'll tell you what, that's different gravy. That is.
And out of the 3 times, sorry, interrupting. Out of the 3 times we played in that season, that was the worst. And we won.
I know, yeah. We lost the other 2 and we won that one, and that was the worst we played. Yeah, you're right.
First one, we're getting kicked up in the fucking air and used as fucking test subjects with fucking basically.
I don't think don't think you'll get a harder front three from United out of that, especially
No.
back then, because back then you didn't really get good front threes. You know, like this nowadays, a lot of teams have a good left winger and a good striker. Back then, a front three like Rude, Ronaldo, and Rooney. I tell you what, you wouldn't see it in many others. And like I say,
and he had to keep them all happy. He had to keep them all happy as well. Keep them all happy, keep them all occupied. That was Ferguson done well there, to be fair to him, didn't he?
Just
at least we won. At least we won.
Exactly. At least we won. Exactly. We did win. It was a terrible game, but we won, and that's the main thing. You know, beating Man United in the cup final is great, isn't it? You know, no matter how badly you play. And I mean, I said it last night when we talked about this, that, you know, that kind of made up for the Liverpool one where we dominated and lost. In that game, we got dominated, but we won. So it kind of made up for it a little bit for me anyway. And yes, I was frustrated with how we played, but when you win, the penalty shootout was good anyway. And obviously, Patrick Vieira putting that one away at the end was a great moment. Unfortunately, we didn't see him again, did we? After that,
they were all fantastic penalties as well. All 5 penalties for Arsenal were fantastic penalties.
Thing is, you don't get that anymore either, do you? Like, when was the last time you saw a good penalty? I think the last good penalty shootout I honestly saw was, I think it was a Carabao Cup game between West Ham and someone. I think it was like,
probably.
I think it was like 9-5, 9-7 or something stupid.
Was it that was last season, was it? Something like that.
I can't remember, but it was the last time I actually saw people got good fin. Whereas these days, it's over within 3 goals because everyone just.
He's either crap.
No, but someone tries something stupid, you know. But it's not. I don't mind penalty shootouts, but I feel like these days it's very difficult to see something that's actually good to watch because majority of them just end up terrible.
They do, but even Man United's penalties actually that day, the 4 that they scored were good as well. There's only that one from Scholes that Lehmann saved. The other 9 penalties in that shootout were brilliant, actually. And they were top quality players taking them, wasn't they? World class players were taking those penalties. So you'd expect them to be good penalties, I guess, wouldn't you? Because of the quality of the players that were there. I mean, Van Persie scored for us, didn't he?
Yeah, just
Ashley Cole scored one. Lauren scored one for us, didn't he?
Vieira got the winner.
Yeah, Vieira got the winner, obviously. I can't remember. Who was the other one?
Freddie.
Oh, Freddie. It was Freddie. Yeah, that's right.
Freddie was the first one. Yeah, he was the first one up, didn't it?
That's right.
Freddie, Lauren, Ashley.
Yeah, Van Persie.
Then Patrick. Van Persie, then Patrick, yeah.
So, you know, world-class players. And Man United's penalties, obviously, Rooney, Ronaldo, whoever else scored their other one. Roy Keane scored one, didn't he, actually, for Man United as well? So, you know, just top quality players. So you're gonna. I mean, it's Paul Scholes obviously missed her, which was a shame and a shock, maybe. But
crying shame.
brilliant from our point of view. Terry makes a comment in the chat there. He says, "I think Arteta played a weakened side against Southampton in the FA Cup because we still had a chance to finish 9th in the league."
Technically, we still do.
Well, that might work. We might well finish 9th in the league, so it would have paid off, wouldn't it? A gamble worth making then, clearly. And Paul says,
I was looking at the league. Sorry, I was looking at the league table as well today. We could, if we win our 2 games and results go in our favour this week and last game of the season, we could finish 6th, guys. I think it could happen, but we could.
I don't know I know I'm going to get a lot of slander for this, but I don't even know if I want us to.
No, can't do another season.
I honestly think.
I don't know. I quite like the Europa League, so I wouldn't actually mind being in that if we can. I don't. We've got a good chance of winning it. That's the point, isn't it?
The only thing I'm thinking, it might nudge up the transfer window a little bit and make them realise, right? That's the only thing I'm thinking. I'm not even thinking about the success and the trophy. I'm thinking about getting rid of the deadwood and bringing the new players in. That might actually smack ahead. You get what I mean?
The way I look at it, right, and I've always looked at, and I know we've been in Europe for 25 years, so you probably get used to it, but the way I look at it is, the more tournaments that you're in, the more chance you've got of winning one, because there's more of them to go for.
True.
And if we're only in the Premier, we're not going to win the Premier League, let's get that clear. So then you've got the Carabao Cup, which Man City win every year anyway, and then the FA Cup. That's all we'll have to go for. And if we get knocked out of the FA Cup early on, we get knocked out of the League Cup early on, the season's dead. Well, at least if we're in the Europa League, we'll probably get through the group stage because normally we do, and then at least the season goes into February and March, doesn't it? And then maybe into April if you have a decent run. It keeps the season alive, and we've done well in the Europa League. Two semi-finals, one final in 4 years. We tend to do well in it, so. It's another competition that keeps the season alive. So for me, I'd like to be in it. Yeah. And if we can squeeze into 6th place, I'd be absolutely delighted with that. Because
it's like what I've always said about squad depth as well. Because if we don't get in Europa, we're not going to need that many players realistically. So all this deadwood that we get rid of, we're going to need to replace 1 out of 3. So when you look at it, ideally, we need it because we need to be able to sign players. If we don't have Europa, why would they sign that many players when we're only competing in 3 competitions? Exactly. I mean, FA Cup don't start till January. FA Cup don't start till January, so we're going to be playing 2 competitions, which all players can play in. A lot of people are talking about Ryan Bertrand. We're not going to really need him because if Tierney's fit, he can play the whole shebang.
That's an if
he's fit,
that won't happen.
Fit, does he? That's the problem.
If that were Luke Shaw or I don't know Andrew Robertson, you wouldn't probably need another left back because they'd probably play the entire lot. It's not a lot of football when you look at it. And
next season it wouldn't be. No, if we're not in Europe, you're right. We'll only probably play 45 games or something all season, won't we? If we're not in Europe, and you don't need a big squad for that, do you? We have 1 game a week. You can pretty much cope with, 18-man squad realistically, couldn't you? I mean, Paul makes a good point there, saying since Sky and BT brought into football, changed kickoff times, etc., the fans' cup has been devalued. It definitely has. They pump out the European games now, domestic cups are overlooked. Exactly, and that's the
very,
problem.
Very good point.
Yeah, we've just been saying, obviously, we want us to. Well, I've been saying I want us to be in Europe, but only because it's an extra competition for us to win. I don't want it to take priority over everything else because it shouldn't be. If we're in Europe, that's 4 competitions that we're in, and we should try to do as best as we can in all 4 of them and play the strongest available team in every game. And you need the squad. You need to make 1 or 2 changes every so often. Of course you do. Keep it fresh, but. Try to go for everything, really, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't think we'll be in Europe anyway, if I'm honest, because I don't think we will finish 6th. We might well win our 2 games, which are both winnable, but I just feel as though the other teams will also pick up enough points looking at who they've got to play as well. I just think that we'll end up probably 8th again, in actual fact, which, is no improvement on last year, is it? Kevin says Vieira's last kick for Arsenal. Yeah, it was, unfortunately. A nice final kick to have to win the FA Cup, I guess, but unfortunately I'd have liked him to have stayed a few more years because we haven't really challenged for the league properly since he went, and when he went, when Bergkamp went, and all that. So yeah, that's a shame. Ryan, you've got a shoot off, haven't you? You've got a show coming up on your channel.
I have. I do apologise. I do.
No
it's been so manic. I've had to change things around. So yeah, I do apologise for leaving you as being late, but then obviously running off near the end of your
No, not a problem. I understand you got your own show on which is fine. Just quick, give your channel a plug just before you go, and so maybe people want to nip over there a bit later as well and catch your show.
Yeah, well, obviously tonight, if you come and find me on here as well on YouTube, the Mr. Arsenal podcast. I've got tonight. I've got myself, Melvin, Andrew, and James. We're going to obviously discuss all the major talking points that's been going on at Arsenal this week, including the David Luiz, Willian could be leaving. The Daniel Ek situation with Stan Kroenke telling him we don't need your money, peasant, go away. And obviously, sort of looking on to Roy Hodgson's last home game tomorrow, because he has obviously confirmed today he is stepping down from Crystal Palace.
He's stepping down.
Crystal Palace. So
maybe Arteta can go there next season. Maybe Arteta can go Crystal Palace next season. That'd be a good job for him.
I'm going to check the odds for that in a minute. Actually, go and call and check the odds for
that. Lampard's going now.
Yeah, I think Lampard will go there. Yeah, that's what I think as well. But Arteta can take the job if he wants it. I won't stop him.
He can be assistant. They can co-manage together.
Yeah, exactly.
The days.
the 2 failed managers can go and manage Crystal Palace. That would be good.
Oh dear, but yes. Again, thank you for the invite. I've enjoyed this. When I have been here, I have enjoyed it. I will be watching it back properly later. But again, thank you, and I hope to have you on my channel soon as well, and along with Adam and Den at some point as well.
Yeah, no, I'm sure we definitely sort that out. Not a problem at all. And I'll say if jump over to Ryan's channel when we finished here and watch his show as well, that'd be cool. It's all good.
Yeah, thank you for that, and I'll have to love you and leave you. But yeah, Cheers.
Cheers,
Terry
Ryan.
says, "There, you traitor, Ryan." He says, "Look, Terry, there's you calling you a traitor." There you go. No, it's fine. He's got his own show to do. We'll let him run it to do.
I can't give him Hail Marys. I'm so sorry.
No worries at all, mate. Take it easy. Enjoy your show. Yeah, we'll speak soon.
Yeah, no worries, mate. Cheers.
Cheers, Ryan.
Cheers, mate.
Yeah, so Ryan's got his show going on. So when we finish here, nip over and watch that, and maybe on catch up as well. And Terry says he'll see you after this show. Yeah, good. Yeah, nip over and watch that a bit later on. It'll be going on for a while anyway. So I mean, before we finish here, what I wanted to end, obviously we've got to end on a high. We need to end on a big, massive high because the FA Cup, it gives us these highs. So we want to talk about our favourite final and our favourite moment really in FA Cup finals that we've experienced. Adam, if we start with you, what would be your favourite final first of all?
2017 Chelsea, when Chelsea had just won the league. We were not fancied at all, and I felt that because of that, the pressure was off us as well. And there's a few things in that final that really stick out for me. One is that I stood up the whole of the final. Like the minute I walked in the ground, everyone was up. I was on a lower tier, just to the left of the goal. And no one sat down at all the whole game. And I was with my uncle, and he had a dodgy back, and he kept moaning that he couldn't sit down. And I was just like, "Shut up, get on with it. You might be watching it now, and don't say you weren't because you were." But it was just one of those finals where everyone was on their feet. But there was the moment in the final, which I'm sure you'll remember, was the Holding and Costa, Holding and Diego Costa, when Holding was just like doing that to him. I loved that because that was right in view, and Costa was rattled.
Best thing we've seen out of him.
Really got under. Sorry.
Best thing we've seen out of Holding, isn't it?
What was that then?
That was.
It probably is. I mean, like, I remember
that's the only time we've seen any grip from Holding, really. Like, I'd take that back, and I'd take that
was the
back
start
now.
of him.
Yeah,
I thought that might have been the start of Holding then, like, because he'd obviously been told, and he's obviously done his homework on Costa, and everyone knows if you wind him up, he can't play, and it worked a treat. And that was one memory, but also in that final was Mertesacker. It was his only start of the whole season, wasn't it? And he was the best player on the field.
Yeah,
he was the man of the match, and like for me, it was like those things all combined. It was just Baking Hot Day as well. I remember being in the fan park beforehand. Everyone was happy, chilled, looking forward to the final. But every Arsenal fan I was chatting to,
what I
had no
remember about that as well.
It was like, let's just enjoy the day.
Yeah.
What I remember about that as well was that London was in like critical, wasn't it? Like that was when all the terrorist stuff was going on. So like the world was just in a jeopardy place. So all of a sudden, a London derby was the one thing you needed, really, because it was like, right, let's all get out and show no. Because I remember this just because of the fact that what was going on. I remember just turning up to a train station and there was police there with guns, and I'm thinking, what the bloody fuck is going on here? Do you got what I mean? Like, but bloody hell. Oh, it's maybe. Sorry, I need something.
The one that's 20. No, I think it's all good. We all do it, but I do the same thing. It's all everyone. I get excited when I talk about games that I love, and for me, that was it. I thought the game was good. Obviously Ramsey scoring the winner again was just like fate. That ball from Giroud, and I also remember, which later was funny. Like David Luiz was, I think, the defender who just stood still that day. Like Giroud kind of went into the onto the flank and ball come over to Ramsey, and I think it was David Luiz at the time, because when he was a Chelsea fan I didn't like him. I didn't really like him when he came over to us, to be quite honest with you. He just was a statue, and Ramsey just kind of ghosted in, and it was behind the goal. We were behind the goal where Ramsey scored, and that was just awesome. And that was by far and away, I think thankfully I've been to a lot of cup finals and had a lot of good memories, but that is definitely probably my favourite FA Cup final.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely a good choice. You can't really go too far wrong with that one. I mean, like you said, Chelsea just won the league as well. And, they were obviously massive favourites to do the double. So to stop them doing a double for the second time, it would have been for them. And that made it even more special, didn't it, really? Because, to be able to be in that position, to do it ourselves, to stop them winning a double rather than have to rely on someone else to beat them in the final. We actually did it ourselves. And I mean, you're right what you said about Mertesacker. He was unreal in that game. Like you said, he'd hardly played. He came on as a sub, didn't he? The week before against Everton when
last day of the season,
and he'd come on in that game, and then he had to play in the final because Koscielny was suspended, and he was absolutely magnificent, wasn't he? Just what a performance he gave.
He was incredible.
He just put everything into it, didn't he? Left everything out on that pitch, and he was one of the main reasons why we won that game, I think, because Chelsea were a great side, and we had to defend well. Him and obviously Sanchez getting that early goal, and of course, like you said, Ramsey again with a winner. He loved the cup final winner for Arsenal. The only player to score 2 winners in separate finals actually for Arsenal. So yeah, that was memorable for many reasons. That cup final, you're absolutely right, and yeah, I mean you can't really argue with that.
But it was also like that. Also the Sanchez goal. Which we probably wouldn't have been allowed in the last 2 years, but the fact that it was contentional also added to that a little bit, I think, and it's also quite sweet when something goes for you. If you know what I mean, like it's not that we didn't deserve it, because I think we did play better than them on the day, but having those kind of decisions that when they go your way, you just know that something's, someone's on your side that day, and I think that's great.
Yeah, no, it definitely was. Yeah, and maybe that's what tipped it for us in the end. You get a decision early on like that, go your way, and that maybe gave us belief. Thomas in the chat, how you doing, Thomas? Thanks for watching. He says, "Good evening, Richard and friends. Sorry, I'm a little late tuning in. No problem at all. You can always watch the beginning later on the kind of replay. Anyway, it'll be on the channel. I'll probably within half an hour, 20 minutes of it finishing. You can watch it back anyway to watch the beginning." For some more sort of great memories. So thanks for tuning in. And Thomas is actually Terry's dad. So Terry says evening pop, because that's a nice little family going on in the chat, which is always nice. What would be your favourite moment? And then would it be the same for you?
I'm gonna have to echo 2017. I mean, in terms of when I'm old enough to actually remember a London derby, I mean, I remember that day completely, and I just remember the first stage was just the fact. I remember my missus howling at me saying, "Are you sure you're going? Are you sure you're going?" I said, "Why? London is critical." I was like, "What?" Because obviously that's when it had all kicked off. I said, "Of course I'm going." I said, "Arsenal are in the FA Cup final. Of course I'm going." And then all of a sudden, first of all, I remember just going 1-0 up, and I was in such a wave, like a good move on a good level. And then I remember they went a man down, and if I remember correctly, it was Victor Moses, I think.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that's right.
If I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember in my head. And then as soon as they went 10 men down, I remember everyone saying, "Oh, the game is ours," and then they equalised. And I thought. You know what? This is where I've got a bad feeling, because I thought if they can equalise at 10 men, it's like now. I feel like when we concede, we fall apart, and I felt like that's what was going to happen back then.
Chelsea played their best football after he got sent off, didn't he? When he got sent off, they played their best.
They played much better football with 10 men, and most teams do. I don't think we do, but I think a lot of teams do. I think when they go down to 10. Yeah, we used to. Yeah,
we did used to. Yeah,
I think when they went down to 10, they just seemed to all of a sudden become alive, and I was like, okay, now I'm worried. And I know that Ramsey winner was a bit messy. I don't think it's not the greatest goal you're going to see in the FA Cup final in any game, but I'll take it. I think that was just the absolute scenes after that, because I think as soon as they went 10 men and then they equalised, I don't think many people were expecting us to win that in the 90 minutes, if you get what I mean. And I don't think anyone...
It was straight after, wasn't it? Straight after they scored, Wenger brought Giroud on straight away, and literally his first touch crossed it, and Ramsey heads it in within the minute.
I saw that going. I saw that going extra time, penalties, the absolute lot. And I thought, I remember just saying to my mate, I've got a bad feeling we're going to lose this, and I'm going to need a lot of drink to get over it, because of the fact that they've gone to 10. Because of the fact they've got 10 men, I thought, you know what, we need to nip this in the bud. We need to go 2-0. And before I could even finish that sentence, they went 1-0, and it had to be that dirty bloody bastard Costa as well. And I thought now that he scored, he'll probably go and score the winner. Like, I hated him scoring against us. I really did. He was.
Yeah,
and like we were just touching on with him and like, you know, Holding had had a good game against him, so I kind of felt bad for holding on the perspective. But that's all Costa needed, that one little touch, turn it around the player, because he was so strong. All he needed was that one little opportunity, and he'll nip it in the bud. But yeah, it had to be that, because it was the one game where I sort of went really apprehensive about Arsenal, but then they completely remembered. They reminded me why I should have faith in them, because like you said, Giroud came on straight away, game was over, and I was expecting the shit ending.
Yeah, no. I mean, when they scored, I felt they was going to go on and probably win, even though they had 10 men, just because they were the champions at the end of the day, and that's the sort of thing that champions tend to do. And I thought we were going to go to pieces, but we didn't. We scored straight away and won, and that was definitely up there, one of the greatest cup finals ever. But don't
you think that would have been the ideal time for Wenger to go? Right then.
Yeah.
After that final.
Of course it would.
I think most Arsenal fans will echo that, though. I don't think I think that was the time where you just see, look, you've won some silverware, just go out on a high. And I felt kind of sorry for him that he didn't, because if he'd have gone out then, he'd have not got the slander that he didn't deserve.
No.
Like, this Wenger out business should never have happened. He should have just gone out on a high and absolutely
he should have
left then. I also think then, sorry, Rich.
No, go on.
I think it's good. I think if we'd have got rid of him then, I honestly believe right now we'd be in a 10 times better position. I honestly believe that. If we'd have gone 2 years before, I think we'd be much different players. Much different players. I don't think people like I like Pepe, but I don't think people like Pepe would have joined.
You're right. I agree. I mean, don't forget that was the first season that we'd finished outside the top 4 under Wenger. Actually, we finished 5th that year, but we'd got, I think it was something like 75 points. No one had ever got 75 points and never finished in the top 4.
Outside,
Yeah, we were unlucky that season not to finish top 4. We finished 5th and won the FA Cup. Of course, that was the following season. Of course, Wenger's last season, as it turned out, we got to the semi-final of Europa League. First time we've been in the Europa League, actually. And I agree. I think he should have gone after that cup final. It would have been a perfect way to go, wouldn't it? Winning a cup, beating Chelsea, the champions. And,
you would.
But I think because we'd finished 5th and because we was outside the Champions League, he wanted one more season to try and get us back into the Champions League again. And I think that was why he stayed. If we finished 4th that year, we're only a point behind Liverpool. If we'd finished 4th and won the FA Cup, I think he would have gone then. But because we were outside the Champions League, I think he wanted to stay one more year to get us back in it again. And he saw the Europa League as the way to do it, win the Europa League. And then he could have gone out on a high, having won the Europa League, back in the Champions League for the new manager. And I think that was why he stayed, actually. And that was unfortunate because, it was a wrong decision. I think everybody knows that. That last season of Wenger was a very difficult season for us, and we've not recovered.
I think he was giving himself too big shoes to fill, because the way I saw it, that the team he had, there was no way we were even ready for top 4. Never mind getting it. Like even if we got it as a pusher, as an underdog, we weren't ready to get Champions League football. We were in the worst form. Like, we just scraped FA Cup against Chelsea, and let's be honest, that squad was nothing without. Who was our prime players then? Giroud, Ramsey. It's
Sanchez,
not exactly. Yes, like even Sanchez. Then that wasn't even when he was really at his potential.
That was his
peak.
kind of coming to the end of his arc, wasn't it?
Yeah, like that was when he was at the end. So I think that would I'm just agreeing again. I think that is really signs for me where you just think, I've managed to get where I am. Let's bugger off now. End on a high. It's a shame for him because
exactly. No,
it is a shame for him because he done amazing things at the club. Like, majority of the FA Cups we spoke about are under him. Arteta's only had one.
They were. I mean, he won the most FA Cups ever by any manager in history. So
exactly,
it just shows, and maybe he wanted to wait until he'd won that extra one to get that record. But he should have gone after that. I agree, and it's a shame. Maybe he didn't, but anyway, I suppose that's history now.
Not sure.
I mean, the 27.
I'm not sure what manager's going to get that though. What manager is going to get that though? Because managers chop and change now so much. Probably no one's ever going to beat that now.
No, they're not.
You know,
No, they won't.
that is a legacy that he's got, and he'll always have.
I mean, I suppose, yeah, because it's the most FA Cups. I guess one manager could win the FA Cup with 3 different clubs, couldn't he? 6 or 7 times, I suppose. You're not going to win it with the same club that many times, but I suppose a manager could win it with different clubs if they stayed in English football long enough and maybe were.
Games change, doesn't clubs, it? Games too hard to stay in nowadays. It's not the same as it was before.
No, I don't think so, and I don't think that record will be beaten. And let's hope not. But yeah, I mean, it was a shame he didn't leave then. But I suppose I think it was because he wanted to get us back in the Champions League before he went, but he didn't manage to do it, unfortunately, and that was that. But I mean, yeah, the 2017 obviously is got to be up there as one of the greatest ever. But for me, I think 2014 just pips it the whole game just. For more than anything else, that was the first cup final I went to with my son, and it was the first time he'd been to a cup final. He was only 10 at the time, and you know, the first time he'd seen us win a trophy, because obviously we hadn't won a trophy for 9 years, and he was only like 1 last time we'd won anything. So that was a great occasion. Obviously, the whole sense of that game being 2-0 down so early on looked like it was lost, and to come back and win it after extra time was amazing. Actually, so
3 great goal scorers as well. Like, if I could pick 3 goal scorers, to be fair, it happened to some of the best people, didn't it? In that game, anyway, at least. Yeah,
no, it did, and it was just, obviously it was an exciting game. It was tense. You couldn't, you know, it went really quick as well, didn't it? Because so much went on in that game, you know, from being 2-0 down, nearly 3-0 down, and then coming back and getting the equaliser, and, you know, the chances that we missed as well. Sanogo came on and played well, and it was just everything went our way in the end. And I say, just to experience that with my son as well at Wembley probably makes it a highlight for me. It probably makes it one of the highlights of my entire life watching Arsenal, actually, to have experienced that with him, a big moment like that, you know, the end of that trophy drought as well. So that probably just pips it for me, that one, for that reason. But yeah, I'd say 2017 is probably second, because of what that meant as well, I guess. But yeah, we've been lucky, haven't we? I mean, every single cup final I've been to that we've won, which has been 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, 8 or 9 finals, that, you know, every single one of them has been memorable because we've won them. But I suppose those 2 are probably the top 2. And then the Aston Villa one was good because we played so well and won 4-0 and could have won 8-0 that day. So that was pretty good as well. And obviously the double in '98 as well. I know Ryan mentioned that a bit earlier when we beat Newcastle in the final. Obviously, for me to see Arsenal win the double in '98 was quite important as well for me, because I knew all about the '71 double. I've been too young to witness that personally. So to see us win the double in '98, I went to nearly every game that season, home and away as well. So I felt real part of that success, if you like. That was a good one as well. The final wasn't great. I mean, you know, we won it, which was good. But yeah, that was an important moment as well to see us win. I never thought, you know, when I was a kid growing up in the sort of 1970s, when Liverpool were winning the league every year, and then, you know, into the 80s and stuff, I never thought I'd ever see Arsenal win any of these trophies. You know, I never thought I'd ever see us win the FA Cup. I never thought I'd see us win the league. So to see Arsenal win the double was just unbelievable, really. You know, I just never thought I'd ever experience it. So that was an important moment for me, and that'll always stick in my mind a lot, you know, beating Newcastle that day in the sunshine, a hot day at Wembley, which is always what cup finals about, isn't it? You know, when the sun's out. And that was the last cup final that we played at the old Wembley as well. So it was quite significant in that sense as well, because obviously the next final we were in against Liverpool was at the Millennium Stadium. So it was our last FA Cup final at the old Wembley. So it was quite significant for that as well. So, but yeah, everything, those are probably the ones that stick out the most. Obviously, Sheffield Wednesday, the first one I ever saw us win, that means a lot as well, because, you know, having, you know, obviously Adam's the same, you know, the first time you'd seen us win it, that's, you know, I was on the same side that night as the Royal Box, actually, the Sheffield Wednesday game. So we had to turn around to look up to see it, you know, but it was quite close to it when Tony Adams got the cup. So that was really good as well, to be in that same sort of stand. Literally, everyone rushed over, because it wasn't full that night, was it, Wembley? It was only about 60,000.
Only about 60,000 that night.
Yeah. That's right, yeah, because it was midweek and it was raining, and it was, you know, it was a quick turnaround from the Saturday getting tickets and stuff. But everybody kind of pushed over right up to the end, and we were quite close, actually. It's a shame, because nowadays you'd have had a camera phone and everything, you'd have got great videos and pictures of it. But obviously back then you didn't have any of that, so, you know, I haven't got any pictures of it all. But I just remember, just memories in your mind, which is great because you can't take them away. But But that was memorable for that, really, and obviously winning in the last minute as well. That the actual game is something that always, is more exciting, I guess, isn't it? When you get a late winner, the last kick of the game almost. So, they're the ones that maybe stick out for me. But I mean, I say we've been fortunate, haven't we, that we've seen us win so many trophies, but particularly in the FA Cup, so many great FA Cup finals we've experienced in recent years in particular,
You could be Chelsea.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, they must have lost their last 3 FA Cup finals now, have they? Because we beat them twice. They've lost to Leicester.
Now, 2 against us.
Leicester, one against Leicester, yeah. I think they won the one before against Man U.
They must hate the FA Cup now.
They must do, yeah. They always get to the final a lot, don't they? But they just can't win it, can they? So, but
I bet Tuchel's probably thinking, "Fuck this." I bet he's thinking, "I don't want anything to do with this competition."
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's funny, isn't it? How let's hope that I say that obviously they're in the Champions League final, aren't they? And as much as I don't want them to win it because they've already won it once, and then winning 2 Champions Leagues would be a disaster. But do we really want Man City to win it? That's the other side of it for me. Another club winning it before we have. Do you know what I mean? A club that haven't got any history at all and winning the Champions League.
Really good point, actually.
Before us, and
I'm not sure how I feel about that.
I just want that final to be.
Either.
I want that final to be called off, ideally, and not get played because I don't want either of them to win. And obviously, one of them's going to either Chelsea are going to win it for the second time, which doesn't bear thinking about, or Man City are going to become another club to win it before us. And I just can't deal with either of those 2 results.
I hope it's as boring as what Liverpool Tottenham was the other year.
That was awful,
that was the most boring Champions League final I hope we ever have to see. But I hope it's one of them. But I couldn't really give a flying toss, and it gets that boring that I just kind of switch it off halfway through the game.
I actually don't think I can bring myself to watch it.
Even last year's Champions League finals rubbish.
Yeah, it's a good shout actually. Yeah, I don't think we've seen a good real Champions League final for a while, to be honest. Even with European teams, like you look at that Bayern Munich PSG semi-final, whatever it was, quarter-final. That should have but the one the other week that should have been a final. That should have been a final. And it beat most finals a couple of years. But yeah, I've got a funny bad feeling, and I hope I'm wrong. I've got a funny bad feeling Chelsea are going to spoil some sort of party because it's all they've got to go for. I don't know what the because I've been on there. I haven't actually kept an eye on there. Let's see what still 0-0. Yeah, that's what I mean. Like top 4 isn't even in the bag for them yet, so they're in a bit of a really tricky position.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I actually don't think I can bring myself to watch that final because I'll be upset whoever wins actually. So I might just do something else that night and pretend it's not happening and not even look at the result. And no doubt I'll find out the result of it. But I don't know. Either of those 2 results doesn't exactly fill me with much joy. I've got to be honest, but. It is what it is. One of them's going to win, unfortunately, and we're just going to have to accept it because there's nothing we can do. But it's not as bad as Spurs winning it, I suppose. So at least we haven't got that to worry about again. Like a couple of years ago when we had the stress of them being in the final, which was no fun, was it? But luckily they did the right thing and lost, which was good. So that was nice of them. Paul in the chat there says Wenger should have gone, obviously after that final, but think deep down he thought he could still compete. Yeah, I think he still wanted the Champions League, actually. I said the owners stripped him of every diamond and the budget didn't allow him to replace like for like. No, it didn't. And we're still having that problem now, aren't we? We still aren't replacing the quality players that have left over the years with players that are equally as good. We've not done that. And that's why we're now competing for 8th or 7th or 9th in the league rather than, 3rd or 4th or 2nd, which we were not that long ago. It seems a long time ago, but it actually wasn't really, was it, when you think about it? When we finished 2nd, didn't we? Run us up to Leicester, and stuff like that. So, but it is what it is, I guess. We just have to hope that next season's better. That's all we can hope for, isn't it? And, I like doing stuff on the history of Arsenal because we've got so many great moments to look back on, and it does make you feel better about everything, when we've had a difficult season that we've had. So it does make you feel better about Arsenal when you look back on the great moments that we've been fortunate enough to witness over the years. And we've been lucky, let's be honest, as much as we're frustrated at the moment and this season's a complete write-off. But overall, we've been lucky, haven't we, to be Arsenal fans? I mean, I'll go back a bit longer. Adam's seen some great moments as well, and obviously even you, Dan. You're a bit younger than us, but you've experienced some great moments. You're not a league title yet. You're not seen us win the league, have you yet?
I mean, when I was not to be able to enjoy it and celebrate it the way I'd like to, no. But yeah, I saw the Invincibles. I remember the Invincibles quite well, but I wasn't at an age where I could, go out and have it large and enjoy it the way I would now.
Exactly. No, it's a shame, but I mean, we have won a few cups and stuff in the meantime, so at least you've seen some great moments, and let's hope there will be some more. We're Arsenal. We'll be back. We'll be winning leagues again. I'm sure we will at some stage. Just how long will it take? You're more likely to see one, before me. My days might be over by then, but let's hope not. I'd like to see one more at least.
I would like to see sooner than that. Yeah, mate.
I would like to see one more, definitely, at least before my time's up. But we'll see what happens. You can't guarantee it. It's been 17 years since the last one, so who knows? You know what I mean? Who knows when the next one's coming? But we might have a few more FA Cups to look back on and celebrate in the meantime. Let's hope so.
I'd settle for some consistency on the pitch at the moment.
Yeah. Start as we mean to go on.
Exactly.
I think
Rich is frozen, maybe.
I think I'm back. Am I?
He's back.
I think the internet went then. I've had a few little issues with it. I'm back. But yeah, so I'm sure we'll have some good times to come as well. So anyway, thanks for you guys for joining me tonight, and obviously to Ryan as well. I know he had to shoot off to do a show on his channel. Adam, just where can people find you on social media? Are you on any other channels, are you, or just on Twitter?
Try to stick to Twitter. Too much just gets me confused. But you can find me on Twitter at Adam Always Arsenal, at Adam79 2001. Started doing quite a few little podcasts now, which I'm really enjoying, and I thoroughly enjoyed that last couple of hours. It's always nice talking about our glory days. So thank you very much for having me on.
Oh, absolute pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure. So we'll have to do some more stuff together in the future as well. I like speaking to people that's got good memories of the old days as well, because it's it's always nice as well. And of course, a little young pup there we've got on as well, Dan. Always great to speak to, mate, as well. Just where can people find you? Because obviously your channel's good as well. Give that a plug as well where you're on.
Yeah. So you can find me here on Twitter. You can find me at Sideline Talk Pod. So yeah, there's 5 of us. We're 5 groups, 5 boys, 3 Arsenal fans, 1 Liverpool fan, and 1 Watford fan. So yeah, it's a bit interesting. We don't talk about Arsenal all the time as much as we'd love to. Well, some of us would. But yeah, we're on all the channels: YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. So Sideline Talk Podcast. Come and give us a little shout, and yeah, have a subscribe if you like what you see. And Rich, thank you for the intro.
No problem at all. I'm glad you liked
good stuff for that, mate. Yeah, to be honest, yeah, we're all pleased with that. So thank you again.
No problem at all. I'm glad you like it. And I'd say, obviously, I've watched your show a few times. It is great stuff, and it isn't just Arsenal content. It is Premier League stuff and other football-related things, which is good. So if you like football, you'll definitely enjoy what goes on over there. So definitely give that channel a subscribe as well, and check them out. Terry in the chat there says, great show again, Richard. No, thank you very much, mate. He says, much appreciated, Adam and Den, for your time and input. Really enjoyed it. Many thanks. Stay safe. No, brilliant, Terry. Thanks for watching. Thanks for supporting the channel as always. And Paul as well says great chat. It was really good. And Shane there says, thanks, lads. Enjoyed the stream. Come on, you Gooners. Night, Terry, and lads in the chat. Yeah, brilliant. I say thanks for you guys for watching as well. Shane and Terry are always in the chat. Brilliant. Thanks for your support. Paul as well has been in before. Thomas, obviously, Terry's dad. Kevin's another one, always in the chat. Melvin was in earlier. He's on Ryan's channel at the moment, actually. So, yeah, if you're not busy at the minute, just nip over to Ryan's channel as well when we go, and watch the rest of that show and catch up as well on it afterwards. And Thomas says, thank you, Richard and friends. Really interesting chat and facts. Good night. Now, really appreciate it. If you haven't, I know most of you guys in the chat have already subscribed, but if you haven't, anybody watching, please subscribe as well. Give it a like as well before you go. Always helps to the channel to grow. That's what we're here for, really, as well, to entertain you and to try and grow the channel. So Thanks for tuning in. Obviously, thanks to Adam. Fantastic to have you on, and to Den as well. Brilliant, and to Ryan as well. Obviously, he was on before. I say, make sure you check his channel out. Check out Sideline Talk Pod as well. Good stuff going on there, and give Adam a follow on Twitter as well. And good Arsenal chat as always. So brilliant. Thanks to you guys for that. Some great FA Cup memories, and I say hopefully there'll be a few more to come very, very soon that we can look back on some more recent ones as well for next season. Maybe we'll see what happens. But in the meantime, boys, I'll be doing a watch along tomorrow at the Crystal Palace game. So if you're around for that, I'll go. It's 7 o'clock kickoff, isn't it? So I'll probably go live about 6:45 with the team news and all that kind of stuff. So if you're around tomorrow, please tune in for that as well. And hopefully we can get another victory and finish the season on a high. You never know. We might make the Europa League again. That'll be good. And another trek into Europe. We might be able to go to games next season as well, away in Europe, which could be quite nice. But we'll see. Loads still to sort out for that, I'm sure. But it'll be good anyway. So if you go in on Sunday as well, enjoy the game. I haven't got a ticket, but anyway, I'm sure there'll be lots of people that go in. It'd be nice to be back in a stadium at some point. I'll have to wait till next season now, but it'll be good, I'm sure, when we get going again. So thanks for watching. Thanks for your support. Thanks for you guys for coming on. And as always, come on, you Gunners. Come on.
Come on, you Gunners.
Oh, no.
Cheers, lads.
Yeah,